This episode of the MOC Squad was filmed in front of a live, members-only audience. Well, good morning, good afternoon, excuse me, and good evening, imagination connoisseurs. I'm Roberto Suarez, and with me, as always, the viceroy of verisimilitude, the one and only, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Hello, Rob.
Well, oh my God, we've skipped a week, but it's our second member call, the new year.
Of the new year, that's right.
Very exciting. The year's already crazy. We knew it was going to be crazy.
It's already February almost. It's crazy how quick even the first month of the year has gone.
Bruh.
Gosh. But welcome, everyone. We've got people in the waiting room. We've got people on the stream. Just a quick reminder for folks in watching us on YouTube. If you are not a member of the channel, you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. And by doing that, you will get the invitation in your YouTube members-only inbox. You will get the invitation for the Zoom chat if you want to join us in the live call. So
I gotta say, one of the highlights of these member calls for me, not just meeting our members and going talking face to face, is the artwork you create for them. And using, it's the best use of AI. This time you made me Ken. I'm Ken.
Well, I figured with all the news this week about Ken getting nominated and all the controversy, it felt appropriate to bring to have you.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like the 1975 Oscars when Jaws was nominated for Best Picture and Steven Spielberg didn't get nominated for Best Director.
Yeah.
Or the fact that Alfred Hitchcock made 53 features and never once was nominated for Best. He didn't win.
That's right.
He didn't win a Best Director award. And Stanley Kubrick never won a Best Director award at the Academy Awards. So this whole idea about Greta Gerwig being snubbed, it's like she's got plenty of time in her career. She'll come back.
And it's
a movie about a toy.
You can never have all the nominations, right? I think the cases can be made, but in the end, this is the body of folks. The same body of folks who's complaining are the ones who put up the nominations too, right? So they
all vote.
It's all the same body. So
and I would also say that if you look, there's 10 Best Pictures and only 5 Director nominations.
Right.
I think a Best Picture nod is a nod for the. Especially now, it's a nod.
Director, sure.
It used to be a total snub, but when you have 5 more, there's only 5 directing nominations,
right?
And there's 10 films, so by definition, 5 people are going to get not nominated. Right. So it's, and this whole idea, if I can just pontificate for one more minute,
sure.
This whole idea that it's exactly Ryan Gosling got a nomination. It's Ryan Gosling got a lot more emotion to play in the movie. Mm-hmm. His part, whereas Margot Robbie, as the anchor of the film, did not necessarily have the dramatic breadth of, say, a role like I, Tonya, which she was superlative in. She's a great actress, and she's a producer, so she was nominated for an Academy Award.
Right.
So,
also Ryan Gosling. First of all, remember all the flack when he was announced as Ken?
Oh my God, yeah.
Right. So there's that, and then too, his performance is not put up against the best female performance or the best female in a supporting role. It's against other best male supporting role performances. It stands on its own. It's its own category, right? So this idea that he gets nominated,
it's its own category. For at least a while now.
Yeah, for at least a while.
Unlike certain award shows, which I think is completely ridiculous, that they've gotten rid of gender.
Yeah.
Which I think is a mistake.
I think, but maybe we're old-fashioned that way. But the idea that that it's not like they're a direct competitor to Margot Robbie. It just happens to be in that category. His performance stood out. I think that's a fair, and like you said, Rob. I think Margot Robbie did a commendable job anchoring the film. But by being the anchor of the film, that allows other performers to then have
shine.
a more of a highlighting reel, right?
No, 100%.
A role that has more of an arc. So,
and also Margot Robbie, this without her shepherding this film into existence, it wouldn't exist.
It doesn't happen. Yeah.
You know, and Ryan Gosling was a hired gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the ownership in the film is Margot Robbie's and Greta Gerwig's and Noah Baumbach's.
That's right.
And Warner Brothers and Mattel's.
Yeah,
so,
that's,
you know.
There is that too, right? We're talking about a major corporate product after all. So, all right, Rob. Well, it's that time when our membership is patiently waiting to get into the room. So we're gonna go ahead and let folks. I
let Kevin Clark in.
You let Kevin Clark in. We're gonna go ahead and let everybody.
There you go, Kevin.
In. So
welcome.
Everybody should be coming in now. And remember, folks, that as you join us in the Zoom controls, there is it's called reactions, and you can raise your hand. That will put you on the queue, and I will call on you and the number that you raised your hand. Also, if you need to get in touch with me for any reason, sometimes folks are in a hurry or whatnot, send me a chat in the Zoom chat, and I'll try to accommodate as best as I can. So. But welcome, everybody. We're going to go ahead. Let me go ahead and switch to the other.
Oh, Joey Hamilton's here. I think we all have to prepare our condolences.
Uh-oh.
I was thinking of him the other day. Once again, sad. I'm sorry, Joey. Preemptively, I'm sorry.
All right, making Joe, making you, Rob, the spotlight here, and so we're gonna go ahead and have Joey come in next. So let me go ahead and. Rob, time wise, 7 minutes is good for today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will go ahead and ask Joey to unmute. You should be able to unmute now, Joey. Welcome.
Lou.
Was the whole city crying?
I don't know. I this year I just blocked it out after it happened. I don't want to live in the, in the ground zero. This was weird because we had a really up and down year. So there was a while where it looked like they weren't even going to make the playoffs, and then here we are again, third face off with the Chiefs, and that's one of the problems. One of the problems is we had my whole life. Up until this point, we had the Tom Brady Patriots dynasty, and then finally he leaves, and then we get Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs like literally the next year, and we just keep running into.
And don't forget Taylor Swift.
Yeah, that was a whole other aspect of the year. She was in Buffalo,
and you got both Kelseys in that game, didn't you?
Yeah, well, his brother.
Going on. I mean, his brother out there tailgating.
Yeah,
and then jumping into the audience shirtless, jumping in the stands.
Yeah, no, he did a great job embracing the scene.
He did.
It was honestly, like if it weren't for the pent up frustration, it was sort of just we were down like half our defense and we just couldn't stop them.
No,
so it was just a tough, hard fought game. But yeah, there's just been. At a certain point you wonder if they're ever going to get over the hump, and it's sports, it's not a movie, so they might not.
I know. I just love the fact that you and I have been talking on this channel long enough that at the end of the football seasons now I check in on the Bills and I'm thinking just about you.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder what's going on in Buffalo.
It's not good. It's not good.
I'd only see you on these late night streams, which I haven't been doing.
I used to go on those a fair bit.
The midnight, the 3 o'clock in the morning ones, which is like 6 for you.
The problem that we'd usually have a pretty good conversation, and then after it was over, I was like shot, but I was still like, when you have like a long conversation, it kind of jolts some energy in you. So then you're just sort of in a weird spot. But I haven't been on that schedule as much. So
no, I mean, we're going to do, Dave Parker and I are doing another Midnight Metal on Saturday. I think Saturday. So we'll start it. I don't know if we'll start at 9 or start at midnight, but
sure. So that, it's good that you're bringing that back, and I'm guessing
just occasionally. It's weird because when I'd gone on the Campia show full time, streams had fallen off, but now I'm kind of back doing that. YouTube is really changing. I mean, I see that my feed is flooded with all this AI generated movie review content, which is, it really is no content at all. I just click on these new things just to see what they are, and it's like I clicked on something about Alex Garland's upcoming Civil War, and it was just this garbage. People are they're generating useless AI content, which is, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. We kind of diverted into this really interesting conversation last night on Midnight Musings about AI, and we're really going to have to put a clamp on, like, AI. If we're going to be inundated with AI content, YouTube as a platform, I think, is going to have to get rid of it, because I think it's going to be detrimental to what they want to do.
Yeah, I wonder, because remember, like, the deep fake was a big thing a few years ago, and it was like really big for like 2 weeks or more than 2 weeks, but you get the idea. Like, at a certain point, the novelty wears off, and I think the real threat will be when it gets to the point where it's so good that you can't tell if it's
Oh
really
yeah, no, and we're getting there. I mean, the Taylor Swift,
I've already had a few seconds, like, where you watch like the first 10 seconds of something and you're like, that was weird, that that felt, it looked okay, it passed like your initial test, and then when it keeps going, you're like, okay, this is clearly a fake voice. But there's programs now that can, if you can match the cadence of the speaker, and, then you just kind of overlay it, you can, like, almost uncanny, especially if it's like a quick, you could have presidents saying things, that are just a little bit out of line that most people will hear and think is legit. And
no, and it's again, this Taylor Swift thing with those pornographic images of her that were,
is that what that was? I saw that was trending, but I didn't know what it was about. I just saw
I mean, and it's gonna, I think you're gonna have because already, you've got kids in high school making porno images of their classmates and things like that, and I think what it's really going to come down to is again, who do we as a people want to be? Are we going to be able to rein in our baser instincts? And I think that AI is going to force us from a moral and ethical position to deal with who we are, because if you're going to flood the internet with pornographic images of famous people or just ordinary people, what are the ethical ramifications of the person that's being depicted?
Right.
And I think that we're gonna, it seems far. It's funny. David Cronenberg made this movie recently called Crimes of the Future. And in the original version of the script, which wasn't so much in the movie, there was a division of law enforcement that were going after criminals that were doing things that had yet to be defined as crimes. And it wasn't like pre-crime in Minority Report about people who were going to commit crimes, but these were things that society had yet to label as crimes. And I think that besmirching a person through the actual creation of images that show them in a less than savory light needs to be quantified as a crime, because that's just like, whether you're writing, whether it's libel or whether it's any kind of, how is that any different than anything else? Mm-hmm. Because you're when you show Taylor Swift with her ass in the air in the stands with a bunch of fans, and these images, even though we know that they're fake, and this has been going on since time immemorial, but AI has now made them, given people the tools to make distinguishable from reality. And as time goes by, people will think they are reality. And that's going to be.
And we know from social media that people can spread misinformation all the time just by saying something is, they misquote people. So now you'll have photorealistic video and images and audio to match the misinformation to begin with. So now it's going to pass like all. At a certain point, you're already, like, as someone who uses the internet, you're asking a lot of people to have to read into every single thing they see to know if it's real. And now, like, you'll see an image of someone, you'll see a video of somebody saying something, and now you've got to dig to even find out if it was true or not.
Right.
So,
And this is something that, again, the guardrails on this kind of technology, and give it 2 or 3 more years. I mean, what if somebody wants to trigger, it's like it's like war games, John Badham's War Games from 1983. You had the Whopper computer making it look like there were launches from Russia, and we were reacting to what our early warning systems, which we had total faith in, and it turns out what we were seeing was completely fake, and it almost led to a nuclear conflagration. Now, that's an extreme example, but what if law enforcement gets some kind of a Ring video sent to them from an alarm company that shows a home invasion happening, and the law enforcement goes to a call, and it turns out it was a distraction for the actual thing that was going down? I mean, this is going to happen all the time. And I can only imagine the possibilities. I mean, anyone who's up on their modern thrillers or modern science fiction can tell you how dangerous the waters are that we've been thrown into. So it'll be interesting to see where it all goes and how we're going to respond to it. But I mean, the way our political system works and our legal system works, it's going to take, there's going to have to be some kind of major AI generated disaster before anybody is going to be willing to stop and go, wait a minute. And then you're going to have a battle drawn across political lines about free speech, and nothing will happen. So buckle up, because the next 10 years are going to be really, really a shit show, I think.
Yeah. Thanks, Joey.
And that's just AI.
Yeah. Well, it's already happening with swatting. All it takes is AI to get into that action, right? I mean,
oh yeah, I mean, yeah. and whole new dimensions of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And especially like when we want. Look, I mean, as an example, can you imagine? I can only imagine what AI images are already being traded on the dark web.
Sure.
I mean, think about the worst things that humanity can do. There's already because the only reason we don't have those flooding the internet is because all these modern AI companies have guardrails in them within their own software that doesn't allow you to make certain images.
Right.
But I'm sure there's AI companies that are actually making it like for all kinds of unsavory people. Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Did you see, Rob? There's an 1 hour George Carlin comedy special that is AI generated.
Yeah, we talked about that last night, and I mean, horrifying.
I know.
That somebody went and did that. And of course, then the family of George Carlin's, who are like, my father, George Carlin's, I think it was his daughter, said, my father spent his life developing this. And it's human observation and human endeavor. And then to have your life and your talent distilled into an hour-long AI video that people put out. And the fact that the fact that people think it's okay to do that, that's the problem.
Right.
That the moral and ethical boundaries that people would have in their normal lives don't even apply to AI now, because people are like, what can it hurt?
Yeah. I mean, he even starts the video off saying, this is just like an Elvis impersonator. It's just that it's AI impersonator. Right.
Which is no, the difference is when you see an Elvis impersonator, we know it's an impersonator.
And they're working at it. That's hard work that they put into achieving that, right?
Yeah. And there's in Vegas, they've always had shows with people that have impersonated the Rat Pack or whomever. And people know what they're seeing, but that AI program in 5 years, who's going to know if it's fake or not?
Yeah.
And everybody's going to be doing it. Eventually, I have faith that human beings are so narcissistic that they're going to spend time inserting themselves. I'm going to be an AI generated Luke Skywalker, and I can watch Star Wars where I star in it.
Right.
Because that's coming.
Well, I made you Ken in that most recent picture, so you can just be Ken in the next Barbie movie, right? So,
like I say, people, and I stand by this, the 21st century, the real currency is going to be the authenticity of the individual.
Yeah. Well, what's authentic are the cookies that Ish makes for Rob. So we're going to go ahead and bring Ish now. the most authentic cookie maker in the PGS. Welcome, Ish. Are you here with us? Did you step away?
What is the word for cookie maker? Like a cheesemonger, like Kaz Graphics is the cheesemonger.
I call him the Cookie Master General.
That's a good name. But I wonder if is there an official baking term for a cookie maker?
Oh, I don't know if there is.
We'll have to
if there is, that's who you are. You're
yes.
I deem you, whatever that word is, Ish gets the official, he's deemed that. How's your mom?
She's good. She's great. Yeah.
Have you seen any movies lately?
No, but I have seen a half a century of life go by.
Wait, are you 50 now?
Yes, just turned 50 on Wednesday.
Well, happy birthday. Join the club.
Yeah.
Do you feel any different?
No, I still feel crappy. So, but my mind's still 25.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the wild thing.
Yeah, the body just keeps reminding it that no, you're not. No, you're not 25 no more.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel pretty good. I mean, I don't have, but I think that one day, except for my eyesight, I mean, I can pretty much do anything. I get tired a little quicker.
Yeah.
But it's the eyesight thing was really weird. Like just one day I started to have to wear glasses.
Yeah, I need to go get my eyes. I need to go get glasses too, but it's just that I'm just refusing to do it.
I just keep having Burgess Meredith nightmares.
Yeah, my friend keeps telling me like, dude, he goes, go get your glasses. He goes, you're going to see a whole new world when you get your glasses.
Well, the thing about all I need is these reader glasses, and you can buy a pack of 5 from Amazon for like $20.
Yeah, my friend gave me a pair, and I like them, but once you're not reading, they get all blurry too. So it's like,
I don't need them unless I'm reading or looking at the computer. But I want to get like nice Tom Ford frames or something.
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, I went and bought some DeWalt safety glasses. I kind of like those frames. I think I'm gonna go get those done.
Yeah, get a prescription. It's funny. My grandmother, my dad's dad, she passed away when she was 83. And she still drove and everything until she caught pneumonia and it killed her within like a week and a half.
Oh, wow.
But up to that point, she was a pistol. And she's like, I don't understand all these women, all my friends with their aches and their pains, and they bitch and they moan. And she's like I told them last week, we're old. Yeah. I just thought that was so funny because she would have none of it. She was like, I don't want to hear this. Yeah, she's like, what? Are you surprised that we're in?
She's stubborn to let that happen to her.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's what people say about my mom. They're like, oh, your mom. When I tell her how old she is, because this year she'll be 79. And I tell people that, and they're like, what? They're like, no, your mom doesn't look that old. I hope she does, because I'm 50, so she.
Well, 79 is the new 59.
Yeah. But she gets around good. She has, she still goes and enjoys herself. She goes out with her friends and stuff.
Yeah.
Because she was a nurse at Queen of the Valley for 51 years.
Wow.
And she retired, but she still goes out with the girls from there and stuff. She's still rocking and rolling. So I
That's
think
good.
I'm gonna be around for a few more years. So I don't know what I'm gonna do when she's not, because I've had her with me for so long, and when that day comes up, now I'm gonna be a mess. So
well, it won't come for a while.
For a while, yeah. But on the better things, my condolences to Rob, the Bills.
Yeah,
I'm tired of seeing Kansas City. I wish somebody would do something to them. I don't know.
Well, they kind of have the media behind them.
Yeah, and just so my friends know that I said it. Green Bay, my condolences. I was rooting for those guys too, and I really give them crap during the year. But so when the playoffs came, I mean, they did the one thing I wanted them to do. They eliminated Dallas. So
I mean, anybody who does that, has our eternal gratitude.
Yeah. I don't know who elected them America's team, because I didn't vote on it. So I don't know.
They're not fucking America's team.
Yeah,
no.
Just because you got a star on your helmet, don't cut it out. But yeah, it's been a good season.
You can't be America's team when your power grid can't get you through the winter.
Yes,
come on.
Yes. I know my brother lives in Dallas. I was just outside of Dallas now too. He just built a house in Frisco. So
Actually, I like Texas.
I like that part of Texas. I don't know about the rest of it. There's too many open areas out there. It's like, wow, can't believe all this is undeveloped.
I know. Well, yeah, but no, I've been. I haven't been to Austin, but I've been to Houston. I've been to Dallas. So
Yeah, Dallas
do
is
wanna go
really
to
nice.
Austin.
Dallas is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, I
It's a
like
beautiful
Dallas.
city. Yeah, I like.
Although
it.
I had a program thrown at me at the what used to be the USA Film Festival.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a woman threw a program at me when we showed Free Enterprise. This movie is the most offensive movie I've ever seen.
What?
Yeah, I
Oh,
know, right?
wow.
I'm like, what? That's what I said. What can you do?
So, some people you just can't help them. And I don't understand. It's like if you don't like something, don't watch it. I don't
Except
get it.
unless you're stuck like Star Trek, I can't not watch Star Trek. I wish I could.
I wish I had that problem, Rob, but I could not watch it all day long.
Since 2017, I feel like I feel like I'm the hostage situation has continued. I mean,
You know what? It's funny because after listening to you talk about it so much, it's like, yeah, I have no interest in watching Star Trek no more. Like, really.
no, you should watch classic Star Trek. I'll tell you this.
It's been a while though since I've actually got into it and watched it. Because even I think the last one I stopped watching it was at Enterprise.
Yeah, that's when you should. 2005 is when Star Trek.
Yeah, I just stopped once I seen that. I was just like, oh no. When the opening credits, when the song came on, I was like, that's not Star Wars. I was like, oh no, I can't watch it. I mean, like, well, that's not Star Trek. I can't watch this. I go,
I'll tell you, there's this girl. I mean, it's creepy. A friend of mine told me about her. It's creepy that I watch her. I feel creepy because she's too much. She's too young, but she has a review channel called Bunny Tails Reacts, and she's been watching classic Star Trek, the original series, and she just watched Errand of Mercy, and she's really smart. And watching her go through the original series, which she'd never seen before, and hearing her analysis, it gives me hope because she can watch Star Trek and she's like, okay, I understand this is made in 1966. So she's able to look past the visual effects and the production design and take the shows for the stories themselves. And I think that's a skill that people don't have today, especially younger people. And her analysis is quite
in themselves. That's why.
Well, I mean, but also, I mean, even astute film viewers, like it was interesting. Elizabeth's youngest daughter, Sophie, I thought this was really interesting. She walked in a couple years back and she could look at something and go, it was probably a film from the 70s. She goes, oh, this movie looks old, because she could tell from the film stock, and it wasn't black and white, which is true. I mean, if you go back and you film stock has changed, there's much faster stocks now. Film looks totally different. The film of the 70s is not the film of the 80s, which is not the film now for those people who use film, and the actual texture of things. But to me, the idea, I didn't grow up with that. It was, to me, I'm like, I'm not going to watch. I knew as a kid that Universal monster movies were made 50 years before I was born. And it wasn't like I'm not going to watch them. They're classic monster movies. They're called Universal Classic Monsters. Why wouldn't I want to watch them to see where they came from? And I wasn't going to not watch The Twilight Zone, which was one of my favorite shows ever, because it was black and white. It was still great. But now it's really hard. People can't get past their initial, oh, it's black and white, I'm not going to watch it. They can't, that mindset, you have to train yourself.
So good to see you, Ish. There's people of my generation who refuse to see classic black and white films. So I can't even imagine what it would be like for younger generations, right? So
yeah, I mean, I can understand that because people talk different, movies are made differently. The pacing of a film, like I've told people, and I'll freely admit this, I cannot recommend, if someone's never seen a James Bond movie, I cannot recommend going back and watching Dr. No.
Right.
Because most audiences today, it would be the snail's pace of it. It'd feel like molasses, unless yourself in the mindset of, okay, this movie came out in 1962. It's the very first Bond film. I need to take away my modern, and a lot of people just don't have that ability. I think it's a skill, and you have to develop that skill.
We got a super chat here from A World in Pajamas. Rob, I am having Mexican takeaway. Probably not as good as what you can get in California, but it's okay. What is your favorite Mexican dish? And thank you for the £5 contribution there.
Oh, well, I see. Here's the thing. When it comes to Mexican food, we Californians are Tex-Mex people. There is incredible Mexican cuisine, but we don't experience a lot of it because that's more southern Mexico than it is northern Mexico. So mostly what I've experienced is Tex-Mex. But what I love is a chicken enchilada with mole. And mole is kind of a chocolate sauce in a way. Yeah. And I like a spicier mole. And a lot of the places it closed. There was a restaurant where Elizabeth used to live in Los Feliz. It was just called Mexico City. And they made their mole fresh every day. I mean, I never did, but if they put it in a mason jar, I would have drank that shit. I mean, it was so good. But a great chicken enchilada with shredded chicken and the right mix of cheeses and things like that. And of course, you have to get it with rice and beans. It's very simple. Yeah. But mole is where that's where the art happens. Actually, a good enchilada is artistic as well. You have to make the decision: do you want green sauce? Do you want red sauce? But a good mole. Ooh, now I'm hungry.
I'm a big fan of the chile relleno myself. That's
that's great.
I like to go. So,
and then Pablo Pubil, is it what it's called when in Robert Rodriguez is Once Upon a Time in Mexico?
Gallinita pibil.
Yeah, like Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
he kept talking about it.
Yep. Actually, there's a behind-the-scenes feature in one of his. It might be in one of the Desperado.
That's right,
where he cooks gallinita or cochinita pibil. Yeah. Does a whole recipe of it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we've got RRTNZ. He sends us $10 New Zealand. Thank you, RRTNZ. Hail Bob, Six Nations Rugby starts next week, and all of Wales games are very early Sunday morning. As such, I'll see you in about 2.5 months. Until then, live long and prosper.
Well, enjoy those games.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
And that's an excuse to drink lots of Monteith's Black.
That's right.
Which is a great New Zealand beer that I fell in love with when I lived there.
All right, and then not quite New Zealand, but from Australia, and a neighbor nearby, we've got Kevin Welburn and his physical media prowess and knowledge. Welcome, Kelvin.
Thank you, Roberto.
What's up, dude?
Good morning to you, Rob.
Your Australian labels are kicking some ass, putting out some good stuff.
Oh, there's a lot of good stuff coming up, and I mean, it's a pity that Umbrella is releasing the Hitcher only on Blu-ray and not 4K.
Well, I think they probably so from what I understand is Second Sight that Warner Brothers George Feltenstein was able to, because no one could find like that negative. Yeah. And George Feltenstein found it, and Second Sight got to do their own version. But in order for Second Sight, they have to make their deals so other companies get to release the film before they do, which is kind of a bummer because they always do the definitive releases. Like, I'll wait. I put in an order at Second Sight up through Green Room for all, like, it's gotten to the point now where I'll just get everything that Second Sight makes, but they're going to put out the definitive color timed 4K of The Hitcher.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's right. As licensing someone like that. So, I just wanted to briefly talk about a theatrical movie, Night Swim.
Wait, the what?
Night Swim.
Oh, the movie. Oh, yeah, the Blumhouse Night Swim. Yeah, the killer pool movie.
Yeah, possessed by water. Yeah, I saw it a couple of weeks ago. Actually.
What'd you think?
Mid-tier. Pretty. I kept thinking, have I actually seen Wyatt Russell in anything? Because he seems to be everywhere at the moment. Then I realized somebody posted something about Soldier. He was playing the young kid.
Yeah, he played the young Kurt Russell in Soldier. Yep.
That's right. And I went, oh, yeah, that's right. But no, one of the key takeaways that I got from Night Swim was a joke that probably would only resonate in Australia because it must have come from James Wan. It's to do with the school that Kerry Condon's character and the two kids go to. It's called the Harold Holt School. Now, Harold Holt was a Prime Minister of Australia in 1967. And he mysteriously drowned while swimming off Portsea Beach. When I was a kid, I mean, you know, and the fact is, the joke is, he had a memorial pool called the Harold Holt Memorial Swimming Pool named after him in 1969. So it's like, anyway, and of course the link with night swimmers is that it's a pool, and they go to this school called the Harold Holt School, and you think, well, what crazy person would come up with that
After he drowned.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, if you want conspiracy theory, when I was growing up, the theory was always that Harold Holt had been kidnapped by a Chinese submarine.
Maybe, you know, hey, you never know. To plot the chart their way through through Australian waters, the Australian harbor. There's been a Chinese submarine sitting at the bottom of Sydney Harbor ever since.
Well, you know, we had Japanese midget submarines, I suppose, attacked during World War II, so we can't dismiss the possibility.
I've been watching there's a girl, she's an Australian comedian, and I forget her name, but she's Chinese, but she talks like she's a true Aussie, and she's pretty funny.
It is funny when you don't expect people to talk
she
like
says
that.
she says she has the face of a Chinese woman, but her voice sounds like she's about to start a bar fight. She calls herself, she has the voice of a bogan. She's really funny. She's really cute. And she showed up in my feed recently, and I've been watching it, and she's pretty hilarious. Yeah, she tells this story. There's some Sydney festival that I wasn't aware of, like something about to do with the lights, or I don't know.
They have a festival of lights or something, yeah.
And she tells a story about how this the guy she was dating, started cheating on her at this festival, and now she can't stand that festival. She's good. She's good. And of course I can't remember her name because I just started watching her. So
that's the way it is, isn't it?
But so have you bought anything physically,
Yep.
physical media that you like?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. What did you have to pay? Okay. Did you get
$59?
Show that again. Yeah, that's now, is that a lenticular cover?
Yes, it is.
Nice. The Gate. People love that movie.
Well, this is the first time I've probably seen it in must be 20, 25 years or something. Because
yeah,
my brother had a early DVD of it, so I'll be looking forward to watching it. I remember going to the pictures.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was only because.
Is that Umbrella? Did Umbrella put that out?
Yes, there's no Via Vision.
Oh, it is Via Vision. All right.
Yeah, 1,065 of 1,500.
Wow. Yeah, like their Grindhouse release with the lenticular cover.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. It's great.
But yeah, a friend of mine gave me this one. So this is what happened. It's called Godless.
Yeah. Is that the Western miniseries?
No. This is the back says. Barbara is having horrific visions, and they're getting worse. A psychiatrist believes that key to her statement is to find the source of the woman hidden somewhere in her past. Ron Lara's husband is a devout Christian, has other plans. He believes that the problem is a spiritual one, and an exorcism is the only way to save her soul.
You know, I'm telling you, I saw a trailer for a movie that Sydney Sweeney's in called Immaculate. That looks like it looks good. It looks like it's a cult of, satanic. Look, I love my satanic cults. I'll watch anything about a satanic cult, but when they're nuns that have a satanic cult and they're trying to bring forth the son of Satan or something, that's even better. And of course, Sydney Sweeney is totally believable as a Catholic nun. So, I mean, I saw the trailer yesterday. I'm like, I'm in. I am in. Because Satan, there's the two best villains in movies are Nazis and Satan. And when you can do, and if you can do both, come on, What was that movie that J.J. Abrams produced? The World War II movie with like the creatures, oh God, I like that movie.
The one with Wyatt Russell?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember what it was called.
What's it called?
The German Nazi
experiments.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, count me. Overlord. That's what it was called. Yeah. Overlord. I'm like, yeah, I can't. Yes. Are you going to buy that? Yes, I am.
Last night, Felix and I got to finally see on Netflix El Conde, which is. Have you had a chance to see this movie, El Conde? It's a movie film. It's in
about the vampire.
About Augusto Pinochet as a vampire.
Yeah, that movie's awesome. I love that movie.
It's got an exorcist nun in it.
I love that movie. Was great.
Yeah, very cool. Film. So yeah,
I love Spanish horror.
Yeah,
Armando Diasorio's Blind Dead movies are great.
To this day, I believe that the Spanish version of the original Bela Lugosi Dracula that was made on their sets is actually a better and more faithful adaptation than the Lugosi one.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Europe. I still think that European horror. There's something that European horror has that American horror aspires to, but doesn't quite have. And I think it's because there's the old world.
Yeah.
And the old world is just it. There are things we basically start with, like, the Revolutionary War, but America became America after the Civil War when we had the push out west, and we have cowboys. So we don't have a lot of old world horror. We don't have ancient horror where the Knights Templar and stuff. I mean, I wish America had like that. I mean, I'm sure we have little pockets of that, but not the American mythos is not. So when you do what you did in The Exorcist or what Stephen King did, the crazy girl down the street is psychic and she's going to kill all the high school students at prom. We're going to take, and Stephen King was the master. He took horror out of the old school, out of the mountains of Carpathia, and put it in the American suburbs.
Yeah.
And that's what makes American horror unique.
Yeah.
We can't really do old world horror unless we import it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I agree. All right. Stubble McShave. We're going to import him from Sweden here. Stubble, you should be able to unmute now. Welcome, my friend.
Stubble's imported.
I'm imported.
Imported Swedish goodness.
Hey, Rob, about that Dune popcorn mug.
Did you get one?
No. Do you know what should have been on the mug?
I'm afraid to ask.
The line, "The spice must flow."
Yes, I and how do we know? Do we know it's not there? Because
I know.
It should absolutely be on.
Yeah.
Or he who controls the spice controls the universe.
Yeah.
I want one of those so bad. Those are going to be huge on eBay.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to pull it from from the cinemas and whatever.
I don't know. I mean, I think that they're going to be. I think that's either somebody was stupid and didn't realize what the internet was, but those are going to be. Everyone's going to want one. Everyone's going to want one. because I want one
Yeah,
just to
but
have it.
It looked potentially painful because it was those things were pointing down. So
Yeah, but it's got to be like rubber, so you
Yeah.
stick your hand in and but when you pull your hand out, those things are going to take the popcorn out of your fingers. I guess
Yeah.
that makes it.
Yeah.
I just love that not only did that actually get made, but somebody had to sit down and put some thought behind it and like design it.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, "Oh yeah, we approve that. Go make that."
Yeah. I got a chuckle out of it at least. So yeah.
God bless them.
Anyway, I finished The Sparrow.
And what'd you think of the end?
Have you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was, really pulling the rug out from, should we call it the Jesuits?
Yeah. Yes, we should call it the Jesuits. We should.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it raises many moral dilemmas that I found very interesting because they basically land at the, a cattle farm, more or less.
Right.
And think they are the aliens or whatever.
Yep.
Which they are.
Right.
But,
exactly.
And they are so nice, and they are so pretty, and they live in harmony, and then they go to the cities.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stubble, there's a sequel, Stubble. I don't know if you know that there's a sequel to it.
Yeah, the Sparrow's now like book 1 now,
Yeah.
isn't it?
The second book is, I mean, the second book came out closely after the original one called Children of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. I wonder if they're going to be able to make that into a movie that people will accept.
So I have a little interesting insight to that. A few years ago, when I was working for an organization that worked with Jesuits here in Portland, and we brought Mariadora Russell to come and speak at an event, and I was the person who got to take her to and from the airport. So I got to chat with her.
Wow.
And she said at the time she was optioning the rights, and the rights had just reverted back to her. And they at the time when the rights were still not with her, the production company was trying to get Antonio Banderas to play the lead, but she was happy that the rights had reverted to her because she wanted Denzel Washington to play the lead. But I don't know what's happened ever since then. So
yeah.
They were trying to make it. I mean, I hope it gets made.
Yeah.
I read dude, I was thinking about you. I got sent a script. I tweeted about this. I can't even say what it's about, but I can say it's a science. I was talking about this the other night. It's a science fiction script that then has the really crazy Twilight Zone-esque twist that turns into kind of survival apocalyptic horror. And I was reading this script going, God damn, this is exactly the kind of science fiction movie that I want to see, because it has a cosmic horror element to it, but it was also like I was turning the pages going, where is this going to go? And it isn't like The Sparrow at all, but when it was over, it left me feeling kind of the way The Sparrow did when I read it for the first time.
Yeah.
Because you don't stop thinking about The Sparrow when you've read it.
No. I've been thinking about it for over two weeks by now.
Yeah.
It has many moral and civilization questions,
to
ponder. But I read a short story by David Gerald that's called Crystallization. Have you read it?
I have not read that, but I would love to read it.
It's about, and this is revealed in the first paragraph, it's about a traffic jam in Los Angeles that crystallizes, so the whole road network becomes crystallized with cars that don't move. And I thought you could relate to that.
I love it.
Yeah. And I sent you a tweet, not on your. I just tagged you on a tweet about a Dirty Harry scene where they are interviewing new recruits for filling the quotas and so on. And it's not politically correct today, but they are increasing the female officers. And I just thought about today and filling quotas, because she is a brilliant person and everything, but she has no experience and gets put in an awful situation. And I just thought that's the directors that are taken from small indie projects and thrust into 200 million movies. So I thought that just reflects today's trend.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think my time is more or less out here.
I'll give you a couple more minutes since I interrupted, Stubble, so go ahead.
Have you seen Masters of the Air yet?
I have not watched it. I was going to do that. That's I can't wait to watch it, and I'm going to do it this weekend.
I can just say that I'm not spoiling anything here, but I can just say that I wish I could see it on the big screen.
Yeah. That's what people are saying. I can't wait to see it.
Okay, but I'm more or less finished here anyway, Roberto, because so
sounds good. Sounds good stuff. Well, I just wanted to make sure you had enough time, because I know I jumped in there. So
yeah, but have a good day.
You too, Stubble. Good to see you.
Yeah.
All right, and coming up next is Pedro Ferreira. So let's go ahead and bring him in all the way from the UK. Welcome, Pedro.
Hi, you're right.
What's up, dude?
You okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all good.
That's good. That's good.
Just trying to stay afloat, do work, make stuff.
Good.
That's it.
I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you saw my message, but actually, my recent interview got put out now. So my interview.
Yes, I saw you. I haven't watched it yet.
No. I know. I was just wondering if you knew about that. Yeah. So I kind of like talk about internet culture, forum culture, and like the kind of reasons I've been like banned from various places, and whether it's my fault or kind of sort of I make the case that it's kind of like towards the sort of the mods who are sort of abusing their power and are very kind of subjective in the way they've dealt with stuff. So yeah, and I do mention you as well. Yeah.
Well,
I mentioned what you said about how when you're on forums, you're a guest. So from that I go from there and spend 90 minutes talking about why that's not always the case.
Well, I mean, it depends whose forum it is, really. And that's why people have often said to me about going on to other people's YouTube shows about why do I tend to sometimes tamp down my own opinions when I'm on someone else's, because I'm not there to start to be I'm a guest. If somebody invites me, if you get invited to someone's house, and it's a dinner party or something, I'm not there to necessarily foist. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but I'm not there to foist my views on somebody else. You still are you want to be a part of a discussion that's going on. You've been invited to participate in an ongoing discussion. So I think it's counterproductive that if you suddenly become a lightning rod and try and dominate the conversation or be kind of a dick about stuff. So
yeah. I mean, that's a really good point, and I really kind of took that into account when I did the interview. But I was asked to do it because the guy running the website is a mod himself, and he's seen this kind of behavior in other mods as well. So it makes for an interesting talk. Obviously, my the trolls kind of found my interview without me even advertising it, but.
Well, you knew that was going to happen.
Well, not so fast. That was like 1 week. It took about 1 week. So yeah, but yeah. And also the other thing is, I messaged you an interesting article. I don't normally message articles from comic. I don't normally use comic book as a source for articles, but someone wrote an really actually interesting article on physical media, and I don't know if it was worthy of a topic that you could do to talk about, but I think it's an interesting take on physical media and the problems with DVD still being it comes out mostly from DVD and what's going on with DVD and why DVD.
Yeah, I saw that, and people sent that to me. I mean, you know, the thing about DVDs is the DVD market was everybody had a DVD player. You know, it was, and a lot of people did not embrace. They didn't feel a need. Look, Blu-ray and now 4K is a higher end system, which means you have to have a Blu-ray or 4K player. You have to have a 4K capable TV. Whereas DVD could fit with any TV. And so you have a whole group of people, a whole strata of people. If you bought a DVD player when you were 30 years old, you know, now you're 60, you had your DVD player for, well, not 60, but say 25 years or whatever, 55. There's a lot of people that just DVDs are fine for them.
Yeah. People
and
are
we
okay with standard definition.
Yeah, because they're not, most people are not audio or video files.
No.
You know, I mean, more people have become video files because of gaming. People understand frame rates and refresh rates. So what the difference between 60 or 30 or 60 frames and what all that means. But I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
Kids today will watch movies with motion smoothing on.
Yeah.
They like
Yeah,
they're like, it looks way better. And I'm like, I want to put a bullet in my face because, you know, again, you have a population of people. You can't expect people to love photochemical movies when they've been watching Pixar films their whole lives, which are computer generated. And there is no such thing as film grain. And people don't understand, well, why would you even want film grain?
Yeah.
And I get it. You know, I understand it. And you can't get mad about that. You can try and educate people.
Yeah.
But when, you know, now it's like, we're going to use AI to transfer to do our movies. And it's like, that to me is horrifying, because you're actually what you're doing when you're using DNR is you're actually blurring the image. And now with AI, you're taking out grain and then so you're not blurring so much as replacing. And it's really weird. I mean, it's the idea is it's the, what is it? Is it the ship of, what is that thing? The ship of Thebes or the ship of Theseus?
Theseus.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Theseus. Yeah. The ship of Theseus. If you keep repairing a ship and eventually you've repaired every part of the ship, is it still the same ship?
Yeah.
You know, and if a movie is completely, and you could say philosophically that when you transfer a film to a different medium, which is broadcast, whether it's NTSC or whether it's now 4K or something else, is it the same thing? And if you start complaining about not preserving the photochemical look for something that's now on video, philosophically, you're trying to retain in one medium something that looks a certain way in a previous medium, when you could embrace the new medium and take the film. Like, what is most important, the way it looks or the content? I would say both, but
I was just going to say that I think that with modern filmmaking techniques now, that's kind of, there is no real grain really in picture, and it's because of the cameras they use. It's kind of picture quality is now very much it looks one particular kind of way, and I kind of miss the way films used to look, kind of within even just like in 20th century cinema. And it just kind of pains me now that we've got films today that just kind of all look gray. Quality looks gray. It's all like no real grain or anything, but just kind of teal and gray, and this kind of artificial blurriness. And it's just it's really kind of, I feel like I'm watching a product rather than a film. You know.
I agree with you 100. What happens with people that didn't grow up with that experience in the first place? You know, they don't have they don't even have. It'd be like people saying that people won't watch black and white movies. Well, at one time there was no choice. There was no color film stock. So, and then when there was a color film stock, people then made choices to use black and white, even though they could choose to use color. And I agree with you. I mean, now, like I interviewed Greg Fraser, the director of photography for Dune and Dune 2 and the Batman and Rogue One and the creator. And they used a process to add grain to the look of the film because they wanted to create that look. But in 50 years, there's going to be nobody left who remembers what photochemical movies look like because they're not going to ever see them in theaters, and they're only going to see the transfers of how they looked. And hopefully they'll understand, like when we look at paintings, that somebody used this kind of brush stroke. Who knows?
Good to see you, Pedro. Got Kevin coming up next. You can join us now, Kevin. Welcome. Let's see. Kevin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, welcome, welcome.
Sorry.
Hello. No worries.
I'm trying to get some stuff done around the house here. so-
What's up, dude?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. I always love that you have that Bond poster behind you.
Oh yeah, I like it.
I'm an
I
apologist.
got it from a theater. It's like a big plastic or cardboard cutout or whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of cool. It was
I've always loved that image.
yeah, it's one of the I like that the Casino Royale that's the only Craig one I really enjoy.
Yeah, I think the Daniel Craig era of James Bond was a total misfire, with the exception of Casino Royale.
I didn't mind the 5-movie arc. That was kind of a novel idea. I like that. I just didn't like where it went. But
no, it was because it was they didn't think through. They didn't think it through.
Yeah, it reminds me of what kind of Star Wars and all these kind of things are doing. They're kind of just, it seems like they're just playing it by ear and not really planning things out. And I think that's what Marvel did so well for the Infinity Saga, is it seemed like they planned everything out really, really well. Which
no, and it's frustrating because it's amplified by great streaming shows.
Yeah.
You know, when you watch shows where every episode, even something like Reacher, Reacher doesn't aspire to great art, but what it does aspire to be is the same. It gives you the same fun that you have actually reading Lee Child's Reacher novels. So when you see or something that is great, like a Scott Frank doing Godless, Scott, it's funny, I just looked it up. Scott Frank, who did Godless and did The Queen's Gambit, wanted to adapt The Sparrow as a TV miniseries. Man, I would love that, because it would freak. The Sparrow to me is one of the great, it's the best kind of science fiction.
Yeah.
Because it really destroyed it. When you read it, you're like, oh my God, it's got a Twilight Zone-esque kind of a twist to it. That, although it could, if they do it, it could be not so good. People would see it's a little cheap if it was done cheaply. But I agree with you.
Going back, I think it was Monday's show, you were talking about Timothy Zahn and some of the stories that Star Wars is kind of, and I just got done reading this book with him, and I don't hear many people talking about this one. Most people know him from the Zahn trilogy. But this is one of those examples where he uses, he has Han and Lando, but then he introduces a bunch of new characters and things like that. That's what's frustrating, is you have just such a plethora of characters that are original from these books, and they just choose not to do anything. And I don't know how much you followed. Have you heard about the thing with the new Bad Batch and the whole deal with Asajj?
That Asajj Ventress is going to be in the
from this book, and it's the same thing. And I guess depending on where you sit, it goes back to what you've talked about several times about how there's no consequences anymore. And what's frustrating is this is an actual Disney book. This isn't a Legends book. So they're not even kind of holding true to the stuff that they wrote. They literally are just about the books.
And they never have. And I think it again, it comes down, as a Star Trek fan and having grown up where I was not told that these Star Trek novels are not canonical, because they were the only new Star Trek adventures you were getting.
Mm-hmm.
And I would delineate, I'm like, okay, the comic books aren't real. Right. I knew the comic books aren't real, but novels to me were, because they were novels. And when I was a kid, I'm like, if there's a novel, it has to be, even though you'd read something shitty like Kathleen Sky's Vulcan.
Mm-hmm.
But then both Star Wars and Star Trek created original continuities that the companies themselves said these are canonical continuities that go on after the show. And so we're all reading them. The Star Trek Litverse had 20 years of continuity.
Right.
That they just said, yep, this is continuity. So you read it, you get involved in it, it becomes part of your own head canon.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. I would not have a problem with somebody deciding to dispense with all those literary continuities.
Absolutely.
But none of what they make are any good. The people that make the literary continuities have spent far more time thinking about what these are. And the writers have sat down meticulously, especially when you have, like, the Star Trek writers all know each other.
Yeah.
So they're consulting with, how can we make sure that this continuity works? And in the case of Star Wars, we end up getting something that is just shitty.
It's gobbledygook, as you would say.
It's absolute. How did Poe Dameron survive the crash of the TIE fighter in The Force Awakens? I don't know. They didn't make me believe it.
No.
And J.J. Abrams is terrible in that way, because he just figures, hey, we can just whatever.
Just show something cool that blows up and you're good.
I mean, there's no, and when you're, it's really interesting because the people that work at, like, unfortunately, there's a hierarchy of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately, like, movies are at the top. Television still, even though streaming shows, arguably you could say that streaming shows are providing more bang for your buck these days, but films still are at the top of that pyramid. Television is down. Novels are below that, certainly, and then everything else, comic books, video games, whatever, are even below that. Although there's a case to be made. Is the video game for The Last of Us better than the TV series or not? I mean, we'll have to work on that in terms of, but I agree with you. It's monumentally frustrating to be fans of these IPs, because the people that control them, the heads of Disney, they don't know anything about the novels. It would never enter into their minds to go, wait a minute, there's a novel continuity. We don't have to pay any attention to that, because how many people have read that anyway? And they're right. Very few people. Very few people have read those novels, comparatively speaking. So they don't care. But if you were to tell them that you're losing money because the stories that these filmmakers wind up telling are vastly inferior to the stories that have already been told in these books that you already own, but you're paying these people, and these people are ruining I would dare say, they are ruining your IP. Your IP is being devalued by people that don't spend as much time thinking about it as the novelists do, or, dare I say it, the comic book writers who were writing for Dark Horse, that created a lot of the people that they're now pilfering from. I mean, is that Dave Filoni? I mean, I'm sure Dave Filoni is a lovely person, but he's been picking and choosing from all of this continuity, whether it's from the Dark Horse comics, let's take something from Timothy Zahn, and not even remaining true to the way the characters were conceived of by their original authors. It's fucking weird. Yeah. And and I think in every instance, the IP suffers and they're losing money, but nobody understands this. Because it's too hard. You can't get up and, well, these people made hundreds of millions of dollars with their movies. I'm like, okay, but that doesn't mean they're good for your IP. I mean, look, what did J.J. Abrams do to Star Wars ultimately? People love Force Awakens, but by the time you get to Rise of Skywalker, you've seriously damaged Star Wars forever.
Mm-hmm.
Forever, because we don't have enough time to make this Star Wars movie. What? They did it anyway.
Yeah.
And Star Wars has never recovered, nor will it.
Yeah, and they took a expanded universe that had grown in a very unique direction and expanded into things beyond the Empire and all of those things, and once again reduced it to those things, right?
Yeah, and that's it's like, wow, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that the funny thing that I've never understood, what I'll never understand is why don't they just adapt those books?
Totally.
Like, I don't think necessarily the Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire thing. What I would have done is I would have taken Heir to the Empire and Dark Empire, the Dark Horse comic series, and combined those elements.
Yeah.
You know, because they brought back Palpatine in a very interesting way. And they stole it. You know, if you read the development of Rise of Skywalker, they had stolen so much from Dark Empire that didn't get used.
Yeah. Because
they didn't have enough time. But it's like it was all there, and now they're stealing from it anyway. But they're doing it willy-nilly, and they're not. Anyway, yes, I did a show on it this week.
Let's go through some super chats here. Thank you to everybody who's contributing. A World in Pajamas chimes in again with £5, saying that she forgot to say, hope to be in Vegas later in the year for the first time, and looking forward to traveling around your country by train or bus. I don't drive, but maybe you can make it up to LA and check in with Rob.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm only 3 hours from Vegas.
Yeah.
Door to door. I can jump out of my front door and get into a car and be in Vegas in 3 hours.
We got $4.99 from Gerard Leon saying the Dune Cup, a fleshlight for masochists. I guess we'll just leave it at that. Kelvin Walburn checks in saying, Rob, saw you show off 1984 on George Giant Slayer. Not sure what he means by that. Do you?
George's channel, George the Giant Slayer.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about the British, the version of 1984 with Peter Cushing.
Oh, the Peter Cushing version. Okay, got it. All right, and then we've got A World in Pajamas has gifted the Burnettwork a membership. So maybe there's a new member out there who received that membership. Thank you, World in Pajamas, for gifting that.
Thank you. That's so cool.
And lastly, Stubble McShave joins in saying, is that Swedish krona? I can't remember what type of denomination is that, but 50 of those. Southwest or Star Wars Scoundrels, the book that Kevin showed, is an Ocean's 11 Star Wars style. And it could easily be adapted. Set it before episode 4 rather than between 4 and 5.
Well, and you know, it's yes. I mean, that's always problematic because how do you go back? How do you do a Ocean's 11? But that's the kind of thing that they should be thinking about doing. Mm-hmm. You know, and when you get, again, you're looking at Ocean's 11. It's like when you're doing a Boba Fett series, do the Man with No Name.
Yeah.
You know, when you come to Mos Espa or whatever, do High Plains Drifter, or do, you know, it was when you're watching that show, the Book of Boba Fett was so frustrating because the tone of it was so wrong.
Was all over the place. That needed to be the Goodfellas of the Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, all right, thanks, Stubble. And then we just got one more $2 donation here from Irene Jobson, burrito order. All right, maybe going back to our Mexican choices there, or you never know with Irene, but yes, Irene, we'll have you take our burrito orders in a little bit.
I've got a burrito order for Irene with lots of mole.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back into things back under control here with Brian Depp. Brian, you should be able to join us now. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. Yes, we can totally hear you, sir.
Hey, Robert, how are you?
How's it going?
It's going good.
Welcome to this band of ne'er-do-wells.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to talk about. I just wanted to shoot the shit with you.
Come on, let's shoot the shit. That's the best way to go. You never know what we're going to say on this show.
So do you have any update that you can share about the DS9
okay. So here's what I've heard. There is an active push to do at least DS9 to res it. They want to do it in 16:9, which is horrible.
Is anybody talking in their ear to get them to?
No, because the powers that be, here's the thought is obviously that all of our displays now are 16:9. So why wouldn't they watch a square image? But I get that. I understand that. But like with Next Generation, they were framing, the show is actually framed for 4:3.
4:3, exactly.
So yeah, and if you look at how Next Generation was shot, and we got into this in some of our documentaries, the way things were shot and the way people were stacked up in the frame, it was 4:3. You can't get away from that. By the time they got to Enterprise, that's a 16:9 show.
Right.
You know, and that's
that way.
Yeah, and they had moved, and by the last season was shot on HD. It was no longer shot on film. And when we were working on the Blu-rays for those, the visual effects were done at 720. They were upscaled, but they looked pretty good. And so with Deep Space Nine, also a lot of the effect shots when they were doing the effects composites, they didn't compose for 16:9. So they would have to blow into the image. They would blow up the image. And by definition, you're going to crop it out. You're going to have to recompose the entire show. And I think that's a mistake, but this is the kind of thinking that we have now. And the company that wants to do it, I won't say who they are, but they've worked on things. They've done things in the past, but they specialize in doing stuff on the cheap. Nowadays, nobody wants to do it correctly. And now with AI technology, they have ways to like scan in all the footage, and AI figures out which takes they use, and they want to automate everything because they don't want to pay people. So everybody wants to do everything on the cheap. Nobody wants to do anything correctly. And this is going to be the problem moving forward. And to get stuff, and for Star Trek, look, they at the time, unfortunately, the Next Generation cost, I think it would probably cost more, but the Next Generation cost about $14 million to do the entire restoration of all 178 episodes. And that was done by a team of people over the course of 4 years.
Yep.
And that's how long it would take to do Deep Space Nine and Voyager. It would take 4 years, and probably a lot longer to do Voyager and Deep Space Nine because of how much CG was used later on in the show. There's actually only one shot in Deep Space Nine of the station that was a CG shot, and it's the final shot of the episode when they pull out of What We Leave Behind, or What You Leave Behind. It's the final shot.
Kira looking out the window.
That's the only shot that's CG of the station. But there, when you go to things like Sacrifice of Angels, and Mojo did do upscales of those battle scenes that you see in the What We Leave Behind documentary.
What We Leave Behind, yeah.
Yeah, and so it would be, unfortunately, the real question is, and people don't understand this, if they spend, say, $20 million restoring Deep Space Nine, how are they going to get that money back? Like, they can't just spend $20 million. And with the Next Generation restoration, 3 divisions of Paramount paid for it. There was like international, syndication, and home video. And unfortunately, the home video version of of Next Generation did not sell nearly as well as they hoped, because by that time everybody had Star Trek, and there wasn't enough of it. There's 2 things that were working against them. One, a lot of Star Trek fans are not necessarily, which is interesting, videophiles. They didn't embrace high end. They didn't have big TVs. They didn't have Blu-ray players. So at the time, they sold a lot less. I think season 1 sold like 150,000 copies, which is respectable. But by the time you get to season 6 and 7, they were selling like 5,000 copies, and that's worldwide.
Wow.
That was really bad.
Yeah.
Because what happened was you had the rise of streaming. So you could watch Next Generation anywhere you wanted, and then they were swapping out. I mean, it's hard to explain to people just how spectacular the Next Generation restorations were. They were so good. And a lot of people don't even when we were working on the show, when Marvin Rush took over as the director of photography in season 3, and we started seeing his episodes come in, like The Enemy, where Geordi rescues the Helena Pacific or whatever, rescues the Romulan from the planet, and we're in the caves. It used to be that the blacks in Star Trek The Next Generation, I don't mean black people, I mean the actual color black on the screen. It was all smoke.
Yeah.
There was no true blacks because it was shot on film, but it was composited on videotape. So the color space was, when we started getting episodes like that in, I was fucking blown away. I would sit in I'd get the uncompressed 60 gigabyte files, and I'd put them on, and I'd call Roger and go, dude, you got to come down here. And when we would see things like yesterday's Enterprise, I swear to God, it was like God himself bequeathed us with these beautiful next generation images, because they look so much better. But most people, a casual fan, wouldn't necessarily know what they're looking at. But even the stars in space, you used to, it was like the difference between getting out of the city and looking up and seeing the Milky Way from Earth. It was that much better. The model shots, I mean, it was insane. And nowadays people are like, whatever. The problem with our civilization so often is most people just take for granted life. Because they don't, unless you have somebody that really cares. And we were lucky. We had a home video executive who was a legend. I call him the Tony Soprano of home entertainment, Ken Ross. And he worked for Magnetic Video and Andre Blay when 20th Century Fox home videos started. He made it all happen. He's like, we're going to do this. And we didn't think we were going to get the next generation cast to be in our documentaries because they had to be paid. He's like, I'll pay him. And he made all of that happen. One guy, one visionary executive. Now, the question is, did they make money? Well, I would say that it was, and too bad it was only done at 2K. It should have been done at 4K. But the future-proofing, the next generation, the fact that it's in HD, it's future-proof forever. Now, if they did Deep Space Nine and Voyager, they should do it in 4K. But that would mean that when the CG stuff would take twice as long. 4 times as long because of the size of the image. But it's a sad state of affairs. But the real question is, will anybody have the wherewithal to do it? And now, with all of these mergers and acquisitions, the last thing anybody wants to do, especially where Paramount to find out who's going to find that money. Where's that 20 million going to come from? International syndication, home video, and whatever I said, or international syndication of it, they don't have any money. And so they're only going to do it on the cheap. And that's our future. Our future now is, with home entertainment not being able to return the money that it used to, we are now going to be relegated, Park Road Post and Peter Jackson's, let's do it all via AI. So all of the transfers of all this stuff moving forward are unfortunately not going to have the human touch, which they all need. Just like remastering of music needs a human touch, and AI will never cut it because you need that objective human ear or eye. So we're not going to get it. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but it's unfortunate.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. Rob, on a related note to that, just given the whole status of these companies realizing that they cannot make the same money in streaming services as they used to before. Sony has been kind of a smart player in that they have not started a streaming service. They just license their content to everybody else. Do you think there's a place to go back to that, to say, for the Paramounts and the other, studio focus? I think one of the biggest problems is that the folks who make the programming are also getting into the streaming business. If they just stayed out of the streaming business and just licensed the work, I think it could still be a much more lucrative position, don't you think?
Well, I look at 100%. And here's the thing. I mean, I always go back to Netflix in 2019. Netflix paid $100 million to license Friends for 1 year.
Right.
So everybody that participated, the actors were all participants, the production company. Can you imagine you have an old show that's just sitting on a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And Netflix is like, here's $100 million for something that already exists. It's found money. Suits, the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, and what's interesting is you had all of these, the actor, one, I forget which actor it was, but one of these actors wrote about how he made like $200 from Suits being licensed to Netflix and becoming a giant hit.
Yeah.
And that's part of what the writer's strike was about. But here's the thing. Everybody got paid what they were supposed to get paid.
Yeah.
You got paid. You don't own the show. And you get paid. You got your residuals, all the things that you were supposed to get. That show had run its course.
Mm-hmm.
But now what's happening is that suddenly Suits has a life beyond. So no one thought of this. It's the same thing that happened with the dawn of the home video era.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody ever thought an old TV show beyond syndication. When you were growing up, did you think of TV shows in terms of seasons? You only thought of it as I didn't. I wasn't.
It was either they were playing or they were reruns.
Yeah, they were playing or that's it.
Yeah.
Well, because of the some TV shows in the VHS era, like classic Star Trek, like The Twilight Zone,
right,
Laserdisc, some shows came out, but like not a season by season thing. That was really a DVD phenomenon because it was so cheap.
Yeah.
You know, putting out 100 episodes on VHS and shipping them, that's really expensive.
Right.
You need but you put 100 episodes on a DVD.
Couple of DVDs, yeah.
You know, it's so it made it economically feasible to do, and then suddenly that market exploded.
Yeah.
But some of the things that people never did was they never thought about music rights. That's why it took so long for Miami Vice to come on to DVD or Blu-ray and stuff, because they never thought, oh, we need to license this music in perpetuity throughout the universe forever. So and some shows like My Beloved Wise Guy, they never were able to clear the music rights.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of WKRP in Cincinnati had that big problem. When John Carpenter's The Thing first came out on home video, they could not license Stevie Wonder's song Superstition that Knowles is playing in the kitchen.
Right.
And that it took a while before they were able to license that song. And they only did it because they're like, okay, well, The Thing, we're going to sell a lot of those, so it justifies the expense.
Yeah.
And that's still going on today.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's a place for streaming to go, for video streaming to go the way music streaming has gone. Music streaming is all about the experience of jumping on a Spotify versus an Apple Music versus whatever else.
But then the people aren't making.
It's strictly based on the interface, right? Like, which one do I like the best? But the content, you can get the same content on any of those. Like,
but the problem with the artists aren't making money.
They're not making money.
You know, and so the people that own music, and nowadays, unfortunately, again, our civilization, in order to get, we never understood the value of people that created the music, the time it took to make the music, the expense of recording an album, and then listening to it. It was free. You know, so why should I pay for? I bought an album. I'll go to the concert, and that's how artists made their money.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't sell albums anymore, and all you can do is tour, the only way for artists to make money. I mean, my song got 100 million plays on Spotify, and I made 12 cents.
Yeah.
You know, it's a weird thing, but I do think the problem with what no one thought about, a streaming service for a studio, allowed a studio to suddenly have a stabilized income stream. So a streaming service, you're going to get $10 a month from 100 million people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's $1 billion a month that your company is just going to get. But what they didn't figure on, what they didn't take into consideration, is that the stuff that you put on your streaming service makes no money at all. You put a movie on your streaming service, an old movie, and take your movie, even a big hit like Hunt for Red October. You put it on Paramount Plus, it makes $0.
Right.
But you license it to Netflix, and they have to pay you
exactly
money.
And that was kind of my point, is if the streaming service was separated from the content makers, then the content makers just focus on that. They license it to anyone and everyone. You watch it wherever you want. And the consumer is competing The streaming services are competing on giving you the best experience to watch that content, not on the content, not on producing content that is going to attract you to them.
But even overall, like unless something already has legend, like HBO Max, Warner Brothers is licensing Sex and the City to Netflix.
They are, yeah.
And it's like Sex and the City has zero value on Max.
Okay, can you hear us now? Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear us now? Video, but no audio still.
That's really weird.
Yeah, let me check. Maybe I think something. Let's see what's going on. Audio. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. You're back. Luis is now saying you're back. Okay, awesome. Thank you, and sorry about that, folks. We just had a little bit of a glitch there. We do have a super chat from Van Adam, but so I just wanted to say thank you to Van Adam for the €20 donation, and then Adam is our next caller up. So he says he'll explain on air what comments he has to share here. So welcome, Adam.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
We can. Sorry about the technical challenges there, Adam.
What's up, man? Good to see you.
Hi. Hey, it's been a while. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, cool. I'm going to get to the reason in a second. I just I had an idea while you guys were talking about the last conversation. In the old days, there even now there's patrons of the arts, and there are now patrons of the arts for ballet, symphony orchestras, which used to be mainstream entertainment, and now there are patrons of the arts who support symphony orchestras, ballets, theater, and stuff like that. And we might be getting to the point where we need patrons of the arts to restore Deep Space Nine. It might be getting to that point where this medium is now one of those, old, entertainment mediums that's has to rely on the kindness of strangers.
I would agree with that, except for one thing. I don't know if they could ever hope to make $20 million to do it. Because people have talked about that. I don't know if they could find that much money to do it right, because it's so laborious. But I agree with you. I mean, I think, look at YouTube. Most YouTubers do what they do now because people patronize them. YouTube, all these, because with ad revenue, you can't make enough money to make it worth your while, because the way that YouTube pays, until you become a creator that gets 1 million views or more, like a Mr. Beast, the amount of money that he makes for his videos is ungodly. But until you get up to a certain level of subscriptions and people watching your shows, and ad revenue can carry you. Like, I really like this kid, the Stradman, who has an auto channel. He built a house, he buys Lamborghinis, but he has like 4 million subscribers. And when he makes a video, it'll get like 1 million views. And his CPM is such that each one of his videos will end up making him, say $20,000. So that makes it worthwhile. He doesn't have to have patrons. But all of us with smaller YouTube channels, it makes it worth our while because we have people like you watching. But $20 million?
Well, Jeff Bezos sends Shatner to space. He could he could find 50 million in his couch. If he's a Star Trek fan.
Totally agree. But then you'd have to have Paramount. Here's the thing: if they were to do that, then Paramount would have to, when Star Trek: The Next Generation and Enterprise were getting done. Star Trek: The Next Generation had CBS Digital, which is an internal division of CBS, overseeing it all. And they put together an incredible team of people. They basically took Next Generation all the way through post-production again. They went from the negative, because Next Generation was only mixed, for instance, in 2-channel stereo. When it was originally done, it was completely remastered into 7.1 audio. And it's great. Or maybe it was only 5.1, but it was great. And so they did all of that. And it was, I don't know if Paramount or whoever's going to wind up owning Paramount, if it's National Amusements gets purchased by or if Skydance takes it over or what. Right now, these mergers are causing the studios themselves to be thrown into a state of disarray. People don't know if they're going to keep their jobs. And the first thing they do is they get rid of everybody with institutional knowledge. They're like, oh, all these home video executives, they've been here for decades. They cost too much. We give them all the heave-ho. And these people from theatrical will bring them over to take care of the home video department. And they don't know fuck all about the Warner library, but suddenly they get their jobs. And then the studio's thrown into disarray and nobody knows what they're doing. And it's problematic.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think you're right. I think patrons of the arts might be the way to go. But the problem is it's the amount of money when it comes to audio video stuff. And I think that it's unfortunate, because even like Amazon bought MGM, and yet the Amazon executives, like, I don't know the real story about this whole Roadhouse business, about Roadhouse, the remake of Roadhouse not going theatrical.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because it's a movie that celebrates toxic masculinity. I'm wondering if Roadhouse wasn't, some people could say, oh, it just wasn't a good movie. But now when I hear, because I've heard conflicting things, because Doug Liman came out in his editorial on Deadline. Of course, he's the director. He's not going to say, oh, my movie is shitty and it got bad test scores. But I'm wondering if, in fact, that movie, because if you look at the trailer, and Roadhouse itself is you could say it's a movie that celebrates toxic masculinity. I wonder if Roadhouse was it has been a victim of internal politics. And my whole thing would be like, then why'd you make the movie in the first place? That's why
they wanted something in the streaming service, and Amazon doesn't want you to go to the movies. They want you to stay home and order more shit. So anyway,
well, which is so funny to me, because if a movie does well theatrically, people will then follow it to whatever streaming service it goes on to. It's so silly to me to think that, well, the movie's on we're going to put it on our streaming service, so people are going to come to your streaming service. No one thinks that way. We still have a society where people are thinking about movies. Theaters have a prestige and a cachet. Something on streaming is just a TV show.
Yeah.
It's
the only
never.
The only movies you ever really remember are the ones you saw in the theater. You remember every movie you saw in the theater. I saw it in the theater. It's real. If you saw it not in the theater, I remember every movie I've ever seen in the theater. It's different.
And you're catching up. And people, it's so funny to talk this way, but when you go into a theater, like, it's psychologically, you're shutting off your senses to concentrate on one single thing. Your mind is shutting down. And one of the things about the modern age is people have lost that ability. That's why you've got kids, young people, it's like, oh, I have to get my dopamine rush from my phone. Yeah. It's a true psychological addiction. But that's why people remember movies, because you put away everything. The lights go down. It's like being in a sensory deprivation tank, and all you're watching. So, I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever done a study on this, but when you're watching movies, I have to believe that, just through common sense, that it permeates your consciousness the way that watching a TV show does not. Because
it's the only way I'll ever really give a movie a chance, like I'm all in, is in the theater. That I'm all in. I notice every detail. I don't check anything. I don't grab a glass of milk. You're in, all in. It's the only place.
Yeah.
But Nor quick, I just got to explain the super chat, the 20 euros. This is,
thank you, by the way.
Now this is you earned it. This is I live in Germany. We have a tradition here. When you have a kid, you have to buy your favorite people a drink. So 20 euros is you and Roberto both get a drink. And 10 for each of you. Get yourself a drink. My first kid ever. I'm an old man, but it happened. And,
congratulations.
Thank you. Terrified. And I'm already planning his media diet.
As you should, because I'll tell you, my friends that have kids that curated their children's media diets, those kids, I don't know, I haven't seen a study on this, but I would imagine that if you were to look at where they're at in life, I think a curated media diet, just meeting Roberto's son,
that's right.
shows that
he's quite the cinephile.
And he's only 14.
Yeah.
Is he 15 now?
14 now. Still 14.
No, he's still, I mean, the kid's incredibly smart, and he's got a great sense of cinema, which means if you have a great sense of cinema and storytelling, it means you have a good sense of people and the world around you. So a great media diet, plot that year by year.
I'm all about that. And also, not letting them have, it's also a lot of holding back, not letting them have access to the iPad and stuff. And it's a real minefield. It's daunting, I gotta say. How to bring up a kid who just who isn't allergic to black and white because it's annoying or whatever.
Well, it's funny because all you have to do is show them those things when they're young and sit down and say, listen, we're going to watch the Universal monster movies. Oh, I'm going to show you Frankenstein. It was made almost 100 years ago. And if you catch people at the right age, and show them, then you've got them forever. But all you have to do is it's work. You can't just and
it's an opportunity to sit down and teach your child what you appreciate about those things. Like my son and I were watching El Conde last night, and we spent the next 30 minutes after the movie talking about the cinematography and how much we enjoyed it, right? So you kind of touch up on those things that really speak to you, and then they start to get insights into it that go beyond just, I just watched a movie, but look at all these things that went into the making of it. And then they start to look for those things when they're watching a movie. It's not just about watching the film. It's about looking at, hey, wow, the lighting and look at the setup and the scene and like how that was played out. So,
well,
yeah.
also, even when we were kids, there wasn't 100 million things available to watch.
Right.
We only had 3, and the TV stations themselves curated the material.
For you.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was huge. Yeah. How many movies you saw? You know, every Thanksgiving. You know, Mighty Joe Young. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Love Mighty Joe Young. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to rediscovering them through him as well.
Sure.
You know, watching Star Trek and watching them sort of through fresh eyes. That's gonna be cool. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, but it's a challenge too.
Yeah.
Out there. It's by the way, I got a joke. It's a Superman joke. I'll end with this. I was as Club Random, and Seth MacFarlane was on it, and they were talking just about stuff. And Seth MacFarlane told this joke he heard, and it's so wonderful. It's basically some lady on Twitter posted it, but it's basically the intro to Superman back then. The guy who said it's a bird. What was he so excited about?
Nice.
That's pretty funny.
Very fun.
And again,
I love it.
I loved the George Reeves Superman.
It's great. Video Watchdog got a big special on it. Got me into it way back when. Remember Video Watchdog, by the way?
Oh, I loved it. Tim Lucas is unfortunately his wife that he did that with passed away last year.
Oh,
and no, Tim Lucas is one of the he's amazing. His life's work was he wrote the definitive book on Mario Bava.
That's it. Yep.
All the Colors of the Dark, which is you can kill somebody with that book. It's so big.
Adam, congratulations, my friend. That is awesome.
Thanks, guys.
And by the way,
cool.
You're already doing a good job curating the music between the Van Halen behind you and the Ghost in the Machine T-shirt. You're doing an awesome job on the music side. So keep it up with the movie side.
I named the kid Eddie after my Captain Kirk.
There you go. That is awesome. Well, you take care.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I hope you get some sleep, and congratulations to your wife as well. Take care. All right. We have a few. Let me remove Adam here. We have a few more super chats. Let's go ahead and go through these. B Depp, $5. He says he also. So he was on earlier. He says also wanted to ask you if you had any update from George Feltenstein on my movie request.
Under the Rainbow.
Under the Rainbow.
I have not talked. You know what? I'm going to call George this weekend.
Okay.
And I'm going to get that answer.
I'll
try and get it for tomorrow's Let's Get Physical Media.
Chevy Chase, right?
Well,
and
it's
Carrie
all
Fisher, Chevy Chase, and Carrie Fisher.
It's and all of the little people in Hollywood.
People. Yeah. That's right. And then Alon Abadi, who is here today joining us, but he has gifted 5 memberships. So hopefully there are going to be 5 new members taking advantage of that. Thanks to Alon for that contribution.
Thank you, sir.
We've got Brendan Lucas with a £10 donation. Rob, I have a 2048 by 1536 43 million color monitor with high contrast and Dolby 7.1 sound card. Is the TNG on Netflix in the UK the same as the remastered, or should I buy the remastered Blu-rays?
Well, I believe it is the remastered Blu-rays, the remastered, but I would buy the Blu-rays so you can watch all the special features I worked on for 3 years of my life.
There you go.
Including the entire sit-down roundtable discussion that I moderated with the whole cast. And so each disc has 90 minutes of each documentary for each season was 90 minutes. And then like for season 3, we did all different kinds of things. Like we had inside the writer's room that we got Seth MacFarlane to host.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought back Brandon Braga, and we brought back Ron Moore, and we brought back Renee Echevarria and Naren Shankar. And it was really interesting because Seth MacFarlane graciously, we interviewed him for the documentaries because this was pre the Orville. He's such a huge fan. But when we asked him if he would moderate the conversation, he came in with like 20 pages on a legal pad of handwritten notes. So he was like the most prepared because he was a huge Next Generation fanatic.
Sure.
And of course, he was already working with Brannon, but it's a great conversation.
Yeah.
And we worked really hard you know, we were very under budgeted, but they gave us carte blanche to do whatever we wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
get those Blu-rays.
Get the Blu-rays. And if you want to be a completist, there's 5 individual single discs when they cut together the 2-part episodes from seasons 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Not all the 2-part episodes, but the big ones. And then they released single disc only versions that came out. And I ended up doing more documentaries. There's audio commentaries and deleted scenes on those single disc onlys, but they didn't come out very many places. So they're hard to find now.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Best of Both Worlds, Redemption parts 1 and 2, Unification, Chain of Command, and then All Good Things.
Oh, and All Good Things. Okay.
Single disc onlys that we did. So there's another 2.5 hours of material.
Okay.
There.
Great. And then 5 Toast. He says, thanks for the $5 donation. Most people pay little or no attention to their sound setup for their living/movie rooms. That's where the rubber meets the road in movie theaters.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I think I've blown a tweeter on one of my huge speakers, and I got to figure out what's going on.
Oh, no.
No, I agree. I mean, what's sad to me is now most people get like sound bars, and sound bars are okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can get a good sound bar, but if you have a decent sound system, what you realize is the disc that you've been watching, or even the movie you're watching on streaming, because a lot of presentations now are great. When you hear a surround sound track or a Dolby Atmos track on a movie that you previously had no access to, it'll change your life.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, we are done with those super chats for now. Also, Rob, we have hit the 2-hour mark here, so I think it's time to say goodbye to our friends on YouTube. But those of you who are still in the chat, who are in the Zoom call, we will continue taking your questions here. And again, if you are on YouTube watching us right now and you want to join, become a member, you'll get that link. You'll be able to join us in the Zoom chat in a future call. So, Rob, any last messages, maybe announcements for things?
No, I just want to.
We have coming up.
I just want to thank everybody for being generous and supporting the channel. I appreciate that, and I'm still trying. There's so many things that I want to do. We are now. I want to launch. I want to launch the crowdfunding campaign for the Nathan Heller audio drama.
Yeah.
We have to figure out with Max Allen Collins, how long is it going to be? We're trying to figure out the format, and because we don't know. Honestly, I don't have a budget. I don't have a budget for how I know how much it's going to cost to produce it, but we don't know how much cast we're going to need. And we can't have a crowdfunding campaign until we know what we have to ask for.
Yeah.
So the proof of concept obviously is done. I'm really anxious to start because I had such a fun time doing the proof of concept. I want to get back into doing the whole audio drama, but one 12-page script is different from an adaptation of 2 entire novels.
Right.
So
yeah,
that's coming up, and then just more stuff's going to happen on the channel, and then we're finishing up another movie, White Devils, that we're looking about distribution for it. It's a low budget, sort of a shocker, and then I'm trying to get another movie off the ground that I want to direct, and hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on free enterprise so I can put that out in HD and 4K and all that. So.
Kevin had asked a question earlier, Rob, about he says, I'm ignorant of the process of podcast, but can you ask Rob if he will be back to putting shows in podcast form?
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody podcast is, I have a service that I can turn my shows into podcasts and just upload them, and it goes everywhere. And it's extra added work.
Yeah.
But so many people have been asking me about it. And I think I'm going to, start doing it again, and I'll just go back and put up all of my old.
And YouTube has a feature now too, where it can take some of your shows and turn it into podcasts.
Yeah, I think it does that automatically.
Automatically with some of them, at least. Yeah.
Right. So, I need to. A lot of people have been asking me about that. It doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
So, people have been asking me about my Star Trek Picard after shows. And to put those up, and I think I'm going to drop all those right away because those are people really like that stuff, and so
that's more legacy content, because that way people who discover Picard season 3 can always go back and listen to that whenever they're watching.
Yeah, and I think that you know, it's really interesting. You know, more and more people are jumping into this whole space. I mean, I can't believe that this is my 6th year of doing this channel, and in April I'll celebrate my 9th anniversary on YouTube.
Yeah,
starting back in 2015. It's wild to have watched this. It's hard to believe that I spent 10 years of my life.
10 years, insane.
Oh no, well, it'll be 9 years, but you know, it's been fun, because I'll tell you, the one thing about doing the show, you know, as you get older, the opportunities you have to do things in the entertainment business diminish.
Sure.
You know, because people are like, oh, you're old, you have nothing to say. But because other things have happened, the rise of video games, kids today aren't necessarily want to become influencers or whatever. So I've been able to kind of keep in the game, but the YouTube channel has kept me going, and I think creatively vibrant, and keeps me abreast of what's going on. So, and having an audience of people is I feel very fortunate to have that, you know, because I talk to a lot of people I know, and it just, people get older and you become disillusioned, and you look back on your life and you wonder, are things still going well for me or what? I'm like, I mean, because I've liked the same stuff since I was a little kid, I just get to extend my eternal childhood forever.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I keep moving stuff around. Like the other day, I've been cleaning up my shelves, kind of arranging stuff and dusting everything. And there's always, like, for instance, this Eagle transporter from Product Enterprises, you used to not be able to see it because it was on a high shelf. And I'm like, why am I wasting this with paperback books? I'm going to put it in I want to be able to see this behind me.
Nice.
I like my Eagle transporters. I have lots of them, and I'm going to turn on my other camera, because I used to have 2 cameras, and now I'm going to have the Vixters here. By the way, you're going to get paid this week, by the way, and I'm going to start sending things to your parents' house. So, it's going to be different.
Yeah. Cool.
So it'll be more fun.
All right. Well, we say goodbye to our YouTube friends. If you're in the Zoom call, we shall continue. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend. I think Rob's going to have a couple more shows on the weekend. I know there's a Let's Get Physical Media tomorrow, correct?
There is. It starts an hour earlier. Because I have to jump on a podcast at 1, and there's a ton of physical media news.
All right.
Crazy stuff happened this week.
Well, it's going to be a good one then. Until then, we shall see you later, guys. Again, thanks, Rob. Thanks, everybody. And
but for members, we're going to keep going.
Members, keep going. Take care, everyone.
Sorry if I'm eating potato chips. I didn't have any